welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us on a rip-roaring Wednesday. Ready to knock Vince out of his little junior cage in his basement there. How are you today, Mr. Dario? Okay,
officially
we don't have to go too far.
I was going to say, busiest day of the year at my other job. Let's just put it that way. And not for the good reasons.
Okay.
So, yeah. Well, leading up to a break, that kind of stuff.
It didn't force you to delay the show an hour, so.
This is true. That has happened in the past. That is a good point.
I don't know if maybe, officially the busiest or not, but I get the point. So
it was fun. It was good.
I bet. It is it's Wednesday, and that means Mailbag Day.
Yes.
On the show. We're going to kind of do things a little bit differently, though, today, since we had a Marcus Freeman press conference.
Yes.
We've got a lot of mailbag questions already in the YouTube chat. If you're filing in, you can post your questions there. We had a Marcus Freeman press conference, though, this morning, and so we've got a ton of Marcus Freeman audio that we're going to play and hear and talk about and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do that in the first hour of the show, and we'll do mailbag stuff in the second hour of the show in lieu of rapid fire.
Nice.
Tonight, since we've got so many things to get to.
It's a packed rundown of audio. I mean,
it really is.
It's going to be a challenge for you to keep it all organized.
I felt like it was one of the better press conferences in terms of
really,
just
a lot of meat on the bone.
About sort of things to talk about, especially since we've only got the one full practice under our belts and a partial viewing as well, and we're not going to get anything until next week. Marcus Freeman came out, and so there were just I felt like a lot of good topics covered, player-wise especially. A lot of I think fans always want to know what's going on with this player, what's going on with this player this time of year. So I felt like it was really good from that aspect. So we've got a ton of stuff. We probably won't get to all of it today, so whatever we don't talk about today, we can use on tomorrow's show as well. So
love that.
We got that going for us.
Love it.
So like I said, we're going to save the bulk of the mailbag stuff for hour number 2 of the show, but one of the mailbag questions is about one of the responses to a question that Marcus Freeman had today. So I felt like let's just go ahead and kick off the whole show with that.
Okay.
Tie two things together. And so we'll have a mailbag question that ties it, and we'll hear the comment that is being referred to in this question, and then we'll kind of just go from there. What do you think?
I think that sounds like a lot of coordination. I'm glad you're in charge.
We don't leave the coordination up to you, Vince. There's a reason for that.
There is a reason for that. When you're not here, it's a free-for-all, okay? So
it really is. And I'm involved in some of the text chains of the free-for-alls. This is my lovely knuckleheads try to get things together. So.
It's like there has to be a better option than Jesse and I doing shows when you're not here. But that's what we've got. And, people are just going to have to deal.
And honestly, I feel like sometimes it's like, well, I'm not on the show, but do I at least get an executive producer credit for this one? So
you unnamed, unsourced, but always there.
Yes. That's right. They're in spirit. So let's just go ahead and get into this. Domer Grizz on the Champions Lounge, on the Premium Champions Lounge, asked this question. He said, the difference was stark in Coach Freeman's press conference answers to your question about receivers and the other question about Will Black. I asked about Micah Gilbert and Cam Williams and their progress this spring.
Okay.
He says, Domer Grizz says, Freeman lit up talking about Will Black, but even though you asked specifically about Cam Williams, his only reference to Cam was Cam's getting better in a 1 minute and 16-second answer about Coach Mike Brown and all the other receivers. He says, I know Brian Driscoll has shared that Cam is looking better in practice, but based on Coach Freeman's answers today, scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it Cam Williams is to see any meaningful playing time this year? Ooh. Before we answer that, let's hear the response. So, like I said, I asked specifically Micah Gilbert, Cam Williams. These are two guys who have been in the program for a couple of years. What's their progress look like this spring? And here is Marcus Freeman's response to that.
think, shout out to Coach Brown and the job he's done in recruiting and developing. And he's done an excellent job of attracting the right guys to this program and really creating a great relationship with them and getting them to trust them. And now they're practicing and playing at a high level. It's good to see Micah back out there, after an injury-plagued 25 season, and he's making some plays and he's competitive. I mean, he would make a lot of those plays last year. Cam's getting better. Logan Saldalte's getting better. And you're seeing, Mylan Graham out there and doing some really, really, really good things. JG is working back into play. He had a hamstring early in spring ball, but he's working back into play. And the young guys, right, for some of those guys that just got here in January, I remember, at the end of practice, Devin Fitzgerald. They started screaming Larry, that's why I said it. But Devin made a heck of a catch right there on the sideline. And, Bettis and Burris, they're all getting better, and they're all making plays when the opportunities come into them in practice. And they all got room for improvement like we all do. So, but really pleased with the recruiting and development of that room.
Okay, so there is the response from Marcus Freeman. By the way, Mylan Graham, Jerome Bettis Jr., Devin Fitzgerald all had highlight reel catches that were shared by Notre Dame's social media accounts, Notre Dame football social media accounts today. So again, Vince, the question was about Micah Gilbert and Cam Williams. Now, I did preface it by saying there's, room looks a lot different now than it did a couple years ago. But
he ran with that part of the question.
What's the progress of these two?
Yeah.
Now, he did at least mention their names in there, but it definitely stood out to me, the way he answered it, the way he talked about other things rather than those two specific guys, really. What do you think?
That worries me. Obviously, it was very much the definition of a word salad when it comes to answering the question. And he has gotten so much better at that over the years of him being the head coach. He used to be brutally honest, and now we're approaching word salad territory.
A little more salads. That's right.
Yeah. And, but to be honest with you, it worries me because my interpretation of it is if he was super excited about both of those guys, he would have talked about both.
Would have been very effusive about at least. Yeah.
So that worries me a little bit. I mean, I could be wrong, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But it does worry me a little bit.
I mean, that's how it felt to me. It's like we're talking all about basically all the other young talent in the room, where he mentions Fitzgerald specifically, and he mentioned even Saldate and all these dropped a few
Burris and Bettis and all these guys.
Exactly. So again, the question from Domer Grizz was, scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that Cam Williams sees meaningful playing time this season? I mean, if I'm going on that response right there, I think I've got to put it at a 3.5 or a 4 at best.
My gut was at 4 when I saw the question and I heard the answer. Because I wanted to be like a 6 or a 7, but I don't feel like that's where we are right now. And he was impressive on day 1 when we were there. Obviously, that's practice number 1. And things have changed because they've had 2 weeks worth of practice at this point. And so I'm in a spot where, obviously it's do or die for him right now. And doesn't look like it's trending in that direction, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, now USMA 87 is saying he saw a clip of Cam making a great catch as well. And we've heard some good things about Cam Williams this spring, but it sounds like it still has the ability to make bigger plays, but the dreaded C word, consistency, how consistent is he in, making the simple plays, doing the little things, play in and play out, always knowing, what route he needs to run and help, just all those little things that get you on the field more consistently, especially going into his 3rd year here at Notre Dame. I think that's still more the thing, that the highlight reel stuff, the highlight reel ability is there for Cam Williams. I think it's just the ability to do it, play in and play out is still the biggest thing.
And there's a lot of competition now in that room. I mean, he's absolutely right about the recruiting and the development of that room. And so, there's a lot of competition specifically at the position that he plays. And so, if like I said, it's kind of now or never because of the guys that are around him over there. And so, I mean, we'll see what happens. We're going to get another good, solid viewing in a couple of weeks, but not until then. And so we won't really know what to think until the Jersey scrimmage on the 18th.
Yeah, and that'll be obviously the week before the blue gold game as well. So, man,
I know
it's
what, two and a half weeks until
away. Yeah.
Jersey scrimmage and 3.5 weeks until blue gold game. So it's coming. All right.
Let's talk some more receivers, or let's let Marcus Freeman talk some more receivers. Jordan Faison. What he's seen from Faison this spring after Faison gave up lacrosse. He'd been playing lacrosse the last couple of years at this time, but he has given up lacrosse heading into his senior season, focusing on that sport. So how has he looked?
Yeah, I've never seen him in a spring, so it's hard to compare what he can do in a, given that he would be here in a spring and has previous experience. But he committed to the football development thing, and again, it shows where his mindset is and how much he wants to continue to develop to reach that full potential. But he's as solid and as consistent as any person on our team, and his leadership, the way he's able to help those young guys. This is invaluable time for him, right? And that not just the physical aspect, the mental aspect, the leadership aspect. This spring ball is important, and to have him here is going to help him get closer to reaching that full potential, but it's helping our team too.
So there you go, Jordan Faison. I don't know if there was anything specific that you could really pull out of that. I mean, I don't know what he looks like usually in the spring. He hasn't been here to see him. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that for him, obviously he was very more pointed in his praise for Jordan Faison than he was for Cam Williams and Micah Gilbert. So that says something.
True.
But at the same time, I mean, having him here at spring is a luxury. I mean, he hasn't had that before. And he has, based on what we saw when he showed up, on the first day, he's transformed his body. Like, he's a football player as opposed to a lacrosse player. And it shows, you know what I mean? And I think that's going to be the biggest difference, is not only, being on the field for more reps and having leadership opportunities with the football team and all of that. That's all important. Don't get me wrong. But just the dedication in the weight room to be a wide receiver as opposed to being a lacrosse player at the same time is going to pay dividends,
Yeah, and I mean, it's easy to heap the praise on Faison because he was their leading receiver last year. So he's already shown that he can do it. These other guys are still trying to show that they can, that they can do it. And I a year from now at this time, it's just crazy to think that, like, it just feels like yesterday that Jordan Faison was this lacrosse player who was running around out there catching our eye in fall training camp. And now he's going into his last year. It's just nuts. But I think a year from now, after he, shows even more improvement in this upcoming season and more production and everything else, he's going to be talked about going into the NFL draft. I don't know to what level. I don't know exactly how high he's going to rise, but he'll be talked about by NFL draft guys as in, look, he split time playing lacrosse his first 3 years at Notre Dame. So there's still a lot of upside there.
Yeah.
Those kind of things I think are going to be the conversation with Faison a year from now as he gets ready for the 2027 NFL draft. And I do think that he's a guy who's going to end up being drafted somewhere mid-round, at worst.
Well, I mean, look, if CJ Carr has the year we think he's going to have, just the natural progression of things, a couple of wide receivers are probably going to have a good year as well, and Jordan Faison is right in position to be one of those guys. He already has a relationship with CJ Carr. That's very clear. And so somebody's going to take a flyer on Jordan Faison. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, because, I mean, you look at the position that he plays, the manner in which he plays it, there's a lot of guys you can point to in the NFL right now that are having a lot of success playing the exact same way. Somebody's going to take a chance on Jordan Faison. I have no doubt.
He'll go to the combine and he'll probably test through the roof because of the kind of athlete that he is. And again, that's going to even pop like he could be a guy who shows up at the combine and runs a blazy, 4.3 something 40 time. And then all of a sudden, maybe not to the extent of Jeremiah Love or even Xavier Worthy a year or two ago, but like he could be a guy that everyone's buzzing about coming out of the combine because I think that, again, with his athleticism and the speed that he's already got, and then he has a little bit of time to recover and prep for the combine, I think he'll probably test through the roof.
And then you add the numbers that he's probably going to put up, receiving and returning. And don't forget that, right? If he's the primary punt returner, that kind of a thing. And so he's got some opportunities to make some highlight reel plays that people will talk about. And of course, we know he's going to be a good interview and all of those things as well. And so, he's got a chance. We'll talk about this obviously a year from now, but like he's a guy who could sneak on into day 2. And I think
so too.
I think that's where I place him right now. I would right now I would put him as a day 3 guy, but if everything happens the way we think it could happen, I think you could see him as a day 2 guy. And I think that would be huge for him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially considering the path that he took from high school quarterback to two-sport guy at Notre Dame,
walk-on guy,
himself into a walk-on receiver who turned himself into an NFL wide receiver, basically
100%
as an athlete coming out of high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, one more on receivers. I also asked about Salty Virginia Peanuts' favorite guy, Jaden Greathouse, because we know he was all banged up last year, had the hamstring injury, came into camp this year, not quite 100%, but when we got to see him in a little bit of a dose last week, looked pretty solid. I asked Marcus Freeman if Greathouse has that old explosiveness back.
He is, he's out there, man. You know why Jaden Greathouse has been a huge playmaker for our program, and we just got to continue to be smart with his return to play. And we can't just go from 0 to 100, and we all know that, and he knows that. He wants to be out there every play, but we got to be smart with his progression back. But he is just a playmaker, explosive, smart, tough. He's really, really good.
I mean, sounding pretty good. The things that you want to hear.
He's really, really good. Yeah,
really, really good.
I mean, we know he's really, really good, but is he really, really healthy? Like that's the biggest question mark right now. And if he is really, really healthy, I think he will be really, really good, and I think they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. They're going to give him opportunities to make plays, and they're going to give him opportunities to play, period. Because again, as we said before, a lot of talent in that room, and it's going to be very easy to get Wally pipped, I think, if he can't get himself back on the field.
Yeah, because, that's exactly right, because there is just so much talent sitting in that room right now, and every time you turn around, there's another highlight on social media from a different one of those guys.
Oh,
you're right. Tommy wants to know if Jaden Greathouse should just change his name to just Jaden House.
Ouch. I think that's a shot at Salty too. I don't know.
I mean, it felt like to me like Jaden take it to the house, that kind of thing, like he housed one.
Oh, there's a lot of options going on there. There's a lot of possibilities for play-by-play guys like you. If he takes one to the house during the blue gold game, I expect something from you in that realm.
All right.
Okay. So just put it out there.
Have to be ready. Be ready. We were talking about Greathouse on yesterday's show, and I think the first thing, obviously, the minimal thing that he's got to show, because we know about the ability, the skill, the speed, the explosiveness, everything else that he has. He's just got to show that he's healthy,
100%.
First and foremost, and show that he can be a productive receiver. And we were kind of talking yesterday about what would be an adequate basic expectation for Jaden Greathouse. And I said basic expectation somewhere in the vicinity like 45 to 55 yards and 600-700 yards. 45 to 55 receptions and 600-700 yards.
I think that would be great because I do think, with CJ Carr, he's going to spread it around. I don't know that there's going to be one guy that's just has astronomical numbers. I mean, I think at least one guy will get over 1,000 yards, that kind of a thing. But, if he is the number 1 guy, great. If he's the number 2 guy, great. If he's the number 3 guy, great. Like I'm good with all of those. And so I think that's a nice average amount that you put out there. And if he can do that, I think that means there's probably 2 guys that are ahead of him, is what I would say.
Right.
And I think that's okay, because you can't guard everybody. I mean, that's not going to happen. So, he could be the beneficiary of some double teams elsewhere. And, things of that nature. So I think 600 to 700 yards would be a successful season.
Yeah, and I think it's like 5 of the top 6, Faison returns, but the next, I think it's 5 guys in terms of receiving production are all gone. So there's plenty of opportunity for him to step into that now.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
Pauling being gone, especially since they were playing a lot of the same position out there. So, yeah, I think we've been waiting. We saw this explosion at the end of the playoffs, and you're thinking, okay, this is the breakout. Now it's going to roll into next year. And, obviously, even before the injury, he wasn't, he was out there, but he wasn't producing a lot when he was out there. Now, part of that is the quarterback and, how they run the offense and all that kind of stuff. And so I am curious to see sort of that continued evolution. I mean, it's not like he didn't throw to any slot receivers.
Correct.
So.
No, 100%. Again, if he's the third option and he ends up being the third option and he's healthy all season, that is very telling to what this wide receiver room is going to look like. Like that, I think that's a great problem to have if he's your number 3.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, mailbag coming up, hour number 2 of the show today, Notre Dame football mailbag. You can submit your questions in the YouTube chat, either in the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel or the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel. We've got more comments from Marcus Freeman coming up next, including the quarterbacks, all 3 of them, CJ Carr, Blake Hebert, and Noah Grubbs, and the left tackle, some guy named Will Black, who's out there playing left tackle this spring. So those comments and more, and then mailbag in hour number 2, the 6 o'clock hour of the show, coming up when we return. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We continue Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Mailbag day. We're typically answering Notre Dame football questions in hour number 1 of the show on Wednesdays. But because we had a Marcus Freeman press conference today, we're listening to and reacting to, discussing some of Marcus Freeman's comments from his press conference today. And we're back at hour number 2.
I love it. That's great. There was a lot of adjectives in there. I was good.
I guess, wasn't there?
I mean, that's your job. You paint the picture, and you certainly are painting the picture for what we got going on here. I love it.
Flipping around different metaphors left and right.
Love it.
I'm still in basketball mode.
Right.
Like, I don't know what to do without a basketball game. Nothing to describe now.
It's so weird because you go from just basically being on the road, it feels like, all the time, from feels like January all the way through March. I mean, just on the road, schedule's crazy. And now you're just here.
It's nothing. That's right. And it's wild because I am sleeping more at night. And
I bet.
Sleeping a little deeper, a little longer. Yeah. Because I was thinking about it just today. Actually, it's like, oh, wow, today's Wednesday. A week ago, we were getting ready to fly to Texas.
That's true.
Such a whirlwind, but great, obviously run at the end of the season. That's when it gets fun is obviously in March and to be able to, for them, obviously, and, Neil Ivey and the team to pick up a couple of big wins like that back to back against Ohio State and Vanderbilt. Like those are the kind of fun games. Yep, exactly.
Top 8. I mean, making it to the Elite 8, that's a special season, no matter how you slice it, and especially with the way everything went down. Yeah. So, but hey, I'm happy that you're back. So
I'm sure you are. I'm sure, for Vince reasons, you're very happy that I'm back.
So happy, so happy.
Vince is like, this is fewer shows that I have to try to cobble together now.
Hey, you were instrumental on the back end, pumping it full of rapid fire questions, helping out Jesse the same way, super helpful, super awesome. But now it's more regimented. It's okay, I know when I'm going to be on, and we can kind of plan and do some things.
That's true.
That's all.
That's true. Good to have stuff like today.
Yes.
We have Marcus Freeman filling us chock full of content today.
Let me ask you this, because you and I have been following the team for a long time, right? And I don't remember him doing kind of a midway press conference in the spring. It's usually at the beginning and at the end. That's kind of it, right?
I don't either, actually.
Okay.
And they've definitely switched the schedule up a little bit this year, because I don't remember it being on Wednesdays this regularly.
Okay.
Every Wednesday, it feels like there's something this spring. Not that that's good or bad or whatever. It's just they've and I agree. I don't remember, because last year it felt like we got one. We got the typical, going into spring press conference.
Right.
Felt like we got something maybe going into the blue gold, right before the blue gold game.
Was it
something a week, after spring finally wrapped up? We got something a week or a week and a half or something like that after spring practice actually completely wrapped.
Yeah, because that was so last year was weird, obviously, because of the run and all that stuff that they went on. And then did he do a press conference after the Jersey scrimmage? I feel like
might have. That's what I'm thinking. Felt like there was a immediately right after,
right?
They came off the field and did a press conference. If I remember right. Yeah.
Yes, and then because they also had a couple. Remember, they had a couple of kind of quote unquote almost secret practices after the blue gold game, and so that was kind of a weird addition to the schedule. And so last year was just hokey. It was just the way everything went down. But having a press conference on April 1st when we don't have the blue gold game till the 25th, and then we had the beginning of spring way back, it was just weird. I'm happy because we got a lot of content, and it was nice to be able to kind of get his feelings on where he's at kind of midway through spring. But just kind of odd. I'm happy odd.
But yeah, I agree. We'll take what we can get at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of what it comes down to.
Yep.
All right. Well, CJ Carr, when he spoke with the media, I believe it was last week, he mentioned that he's kind of experimented with some throws, like doing some no-look passes and, various things like that. And Marcus Freeman was asked today if there's kind of a balance between trying some of those new things in practice and just running the offense as it's intended. And here's what Freeman said.
If you don't try them, right, you're not going to know if you can do them and try them in the game. I remember, I'll get back to CJ, but I remember Jeremiah Love doing stuff like that in practice, and you go, okay, I haven't seen him do that, and really being intentional about working different type of moves in practice, and then all of a sudden you see him do it in the game. And so we have to give our guys a little bit of freedom, right? Not to be silly. We're not going to give them freedom to be silly, but to, okay, if CJ throws a no-look pass and you know what, and maybe it's incomplete, it's okay. Don't rip his tail because he tried to do something intentional to make him and our team better, right? It's a fine line. We can't be silly and goofy. But if we're trying to do things to really help us as individuals get better and help our team, you have to allow them to do that. Like, I don't want our guys practicing or playing with fear. I say it all the time. The worst thing that's going to happen, your coach is going to yell at you.
That ended more abruptly than I thought it was going to. I thought it might say.
I love that comment, though, at the end.
Yeah, I did too.
Because that is the definition of how quarterbacks played under Brian Kelly. And I hesitate to bring up Brian Kelly, but it's just as a comparison. Quarterbacks played not to turn the ball over. They played not to make a mistake, right?
You were recruited basically to play in the Brian Kelly box.
Yes.
Is how you were. That's
100%.
That's what he was doing.
And basically Marcus Freeman saying, you can't play that way, man. Like, you're never going to be able to achieve what we want to achieve if you play that way. I want you to not play scared. And when you do that, sometimes you make mistakes, you know what I mean? But he wants the guys to make mistakes in the spring so that the mistakes are limited when they get to the fall, which, my goodness, makes an awful lot of sense to me.
I think you test your limits in the spring as much as possible and figure those things out. And then you know where to sort of reel it in. It's like, well, I did that in the spring and it did work, or I did that in the spring and it bombed miserably. So there's no reason to do that again. So completely agree with what he's saying. And I think if nothing else, like the comment there at the end about playing with confidence, you can't play scared. I think that it gives you the confidence. Like when you get into an actual game situation, hey, I've done this before. And a lot of that's going to happen by instinct anyway, like a lot of those, like the whoop-de-doo thing and, that CJ Carr did against Miami, for example, on that touchdown pass to Gilbert at the beginning of the season. Like it's not like you're probably practicing that. It's just the innate, the instinct and the talent and the ability that you have just kind of coming through when you needed it.
And look, if he's going to be able to, I'm not asking him to be Patrick Mahomes doing kind of some of the crazy stuff that he does during games, but he's talented enough where he can go off platform. He can do some different things. And this is the time to experiment to see, if the things you do in your head will translate to what happens on the field, right? Or in your backyard or whatever the case may be. So, hey, I'm excited to see what he pulls out of his hat.
So how does that apply to the other two quarterbacks, though? It's one thing if it's CJ Carr. What about Blake Hebert and Noah Grubbs? Have zero experience between them. How about those two? Does that apply there?
Here's the thing, is that everybody's journey is different, right? And where CJ Carr is on his journey to reaching his full potential is different than Blake, and it's different than Noah. And so CJ's at a point, right, on the bumpy road that he can try maybe a couple different things. Blake and Noah know they're not on that level. They're on their own journey and they're on their level. But I think the problem happens when you start comparing where you're at to where he's at. Well, if he's doing it, I'm going to try. Well, don't compare your journey to his. You need to master what you have right in front of you. And if you get to the point where you do that, then maybe you can try to start doing some of those things. So we don't go in a meeting and say, okay, CJ, you can do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. We make sure they understand to focus on your specific journey and don't get lost comparing your journey to his journey, because then all of a sudden you're going to start saying, well, why ain't I playing, or why is he allowed to do this? And don't compare, right? You can compare in terms of how to improve. Let's watch what he does to make yourself better, but don't get lost comparing your road and your journey to reaching your full potential to somebody else's.
So does that mean that Grubbs and Hebert's road is not bumpy yet, or is it too bumpy that it's not smooth enough to be on the Carr level? Yeah, like which
I think
way
it
are we going with that?
I think it means that they're on the on-ramp right now. They're not even on the freeway.
Not even
So
close to a bumpy road yet.
correct. Yeah. I don't even know if they've gotten to the bumpy road just yet. Like that's how I feel. And he's like, hey, you need to work on the basics. You know, once you master some stuff, then you can start going off script and things like that. They need to master just driving on the freeway.
Yeah,
you know?
but I mean, even with them, like they can still test their limits.
Oh,
different stuff.
And you test your limits differently, right? It's like, okay,
yeah,
can I fit this ball into this window? You know, kind of test your limits. Not necessarily throwing off platform and doing some different things, and it's more foundational stuff that you're testing.
Right. And I think that's what you would expect. It's spring number 1 for Grubbs, and it's spring number 2 with no playing experience for Hebert. So much more important things to focus on for both of those guys, because it has only been 6 practices. So what has Marcus Freeman seen from Hebert and Grubbs through those 6 practices so far this spring?
Yeah, you can tell some of the positives and the negatives that each player does, but to make decisions on roles, no. 6 practices isn't enough. And but what I've seen in those 2 quarterbacks is really the highest of highs and then some of the lowest of lows, right? It's that they've made some plays and decisions you go, wow, okay, that's really, really good. And then they made some decisions you go, okay, he's got a ways to go. What we have to do is continue to have more of these and less of these, right? And all that means is being more consistent. Right, we got to continue to get consistency out of those 2 younger guys. But I've been really pleased at the highs and what they've been able to show every person in our program that they can do. We just got to continue to be consistent and eliminate some of the lows.
When he said more of these and less of these, he held the hand up high, more of these, and then he held the other hand down low and said less of these. That's what that was. You didn't quite get that visual, obviously, there. But, I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. It's like these are 2 really talented guys, but they're really just being tested for the first time. Because even with Hebert, as we've talked about, being around last spring, he didn't get a ton of reps because you had a 3-man quarterback competition going on.
The way he just described, how they're doing up to this point is literally the definition of a young guy. You know what I mean? It's like you're going to see the flashes of brilliance, and then you're going to see like some seriously boneheaded mistakes. Like, and the goal is to have more of like he said, more of these and less of these. So like that is the perfect answer, because that's exactly what I would expect from both of them. Because you're right. He didn't get a lot of reps. Hebert didn't get a lot of reps last year, at least not any significant reps. And so now this is the first time that he's doing that. Same with Grubbs, first time he's getting that at the college level. And so we saw some of the heights even in day 1. It's like, okay, these guys can play the game, but they're also very, very raw when it comes to playing in a college system. And so you're going to see a lot of boneheaded mistakes as well, like a pick 6, for example, when you stare down a receiver. You can do that in high school because your arm strength is enough.
Exactly.
To beat that corner.
Exactly.
Not at Notre Dame.
Those guys are moving a lot faster.
Correct.
When you've got Tay Johnson and Adon Schuler.
So you learn, you even if it's a depth chart guy, they're going to be better than a lot of the guys you faced in high school. I mean, that's just reality.
Right. If you were lucky, well, I get, he was in Florida, so he probably, I'm going to say, he probably faced maybe, on average, probably one of those guys in the secondary per game.
But then you don't go anywhere near that guy. That's the game
exactly.
plan.
You know who that is.
Right.
You go to the guy who's not that guy. That's how it works.
Yes.
It's pretty simple stuff. But now you've got an entire secondary full of those guys. Like you said, whether the first string, second string, or third string, they were all somebody's best guy.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. So, and they're learning, they learning what guys to test, what guys not to test. And, and they're also learning their offensive playmakers. Who can I go to? Who's going to make a play for me? All of those things. And you're 6 practices in. That's not that many, right? So they're learning as they go. And that his answer, like I said, is exactly what I would have anticipated talking about those 2 guys.
So I think that one of the big early storylines this spring has been the offensive line with Will Black, the redshirt freshman, moving out there to left tackle after Anthony Knapp started at left tackle for each of the last 2 seasons. So Black has been at left tackle. Anthony Knapp moved to left guard, and Freeman talked a little bit about what he's seen from Mr. Black so far.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. He's a big body, and Will had a lot of hype coming into this program, and he got here in June. And like any freshman, right, had a bumpy road that first year. And listen, his career will be bumpy, but it's extremely high as you look at his ceiling. And he's doing a really good job at the left tackle position, going against really good players, right? He's going to improve because he has to block Bryce Young and Boubacar Traore and some of those really good players every single day. That's going to make him be the best version of himself, or he'll get embarrassed. And I've been really pleased with the job he's done in the first 6 practices.
That was a very satisfying, listen to the beginning of this again.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
He was very happy.
I can hear the smile on his face.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, the same thing. The teeth.
And I didn't watch the press conference, obviously, but you can hear the smile. He's just it's when you talk about one of your best players. It's like, yeah, man, he's good.
That's exactly right.
And remember, they said, look, Anthony Knapp is a good to really good left tackle at the collegiate level. We have to have a reason to push him inside. Give us a reason to do it. Will Black is doing that. That tells me all I need to know about where Will Black is, because he gave them a reason to push a pretty darn good left tackle inside to make room for him. That's a lot.
This was Knapp got some of the early, All-American type, all those kind of rankings and stuff like that heading toward next year. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. Will Black, like a lot of guys, had the recruiting profile and the ranking, and that made people, I think, even a little bit more antsy to see him early on. And it's kind of hard for some of these guys to
how things have changed, huh, Sean? Back in the day, so to speak, true freshmen didn't play on the offensive line.
I know.
Those guys were all 5-year guys, every one of them, And now it's well, he's not playing the first year, he must be a bust.
Right.
It's crazy.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, and I agree with what DCAP is saying. He is a true left tackle. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Much more true left tackle than Knapp was. Knapp was kind of, forced into that situation because of need, because of numbers, and
did a good job. We gave him a hard time, and it wasn't even really his fault. It was more he's playing out of position. He's going to make mistakes, as a true freshman, and he got markedly better as the season went on his first year, and then obviously throughout his second year. So, again, it's not a knock on Anthony Knapp. It's just he did what he was asked to do, and he ended up doing it at a high level. And I just think
that there was more upside to go to the next guy.
And there's more upside for Anthony Knapp at left guard as well. You're gonna see some dominant play from him as a left guard, and allowing obviously Will Black to take over at left tackle. They're gonna run a lot to the left side. It's gonna be fun to watch.
We got there's a question or two in the mailbag about offensive line that we'll get to in the second hour. So we've got that coming up when we begin the mailbag in hour number 2 tonight. A little more from Marcus Freeman about the rest of the offensive line this spring and kind of what that looks like.
We've been pretty consistent with who's with the ones and the twos. Obviously Will, and then you have Knapp at the guard and Otter right now at the center. Gerby at the right tackle, and then Sully at the right guard. And so I say that because each group has done some really good things, but there's consistency in the groups, right? You're not playing musical chairs within the groups. You've got your guys with the ones and with the twos. Now we're moving some guys, like Matty Augustine's playing little tackle and a little guard with the twos, just so he can be ready to play at any position. But I've seen a lot of improvement, right? A lot of really good execution and communication, right? Being able to recognize what you see, that's so important, right? To be able to recall the things that you see your coaches are telling you, to communicate, that gives you an opportunity to have success when you play offensive line. And that's in the run and the pass game, right? There's tells all over the place. But if you don't communicate, then you're not going to be able to execute it. And so I've seen a really, really good job of the guys communicating, executing, and really protecting CJ really well.
I mean, I think it's what you expect because the way they've recruited at that position, there's no reason that everyone shouldn't be looking great, honestly, is there?
No, not at all. And I think it was also a little bit telling when he basically said, we got Otter at center for now or something like that. And, you know, obviously he's keeping the spot warm for Craig. Yeah. And obviously, hopefully Craig can stay healthy all year because I think he is an elite center. But look, this line is going to be really, really good. It's going to be really, really good. Even if it's Joe Otting and Sullivan Absher at center and right guard, they're going to be really, really good. So I'm excited to watch this line mature and grow and all of those different things. And it's going to be a strength of the team. There's no doubt about it. And he also threw in there at the end how they're protecting CJ. I like that comment. You know, it's obviously specific to pass pro and things like that. They're going to be throwing the ball a bunch this year, you know, and they're going to need to protect CJ. So if they're being able to protect CJ against the defense that Notre Dame is putting on the field right now, that's a good sign.
Good sign. Really good sign because you're playing more good versus good right now. Ones versus ones. Decaf asking Knapp's measurements. He is 6'5", 304 pounds is what he is listed at coming into the spring. And Will Black, by comparison, I believe is 6'7", 315 pounds.
Correct. So he's got some inches and he's got some pounds. And that's why Marcus Freeman was like, he's a big man. Like,
there's a reason for that smile permeating through the soundbite there. All right, couple more comments before we wrap up this first hour of the show with some comments from Marcus Freeman and get into the mailbag in hour number 2 today. Nolan James, a guy who is getting a lot of the snaps with the running backs right now because of the limited numbers at the backs. And this is a guy with limited experience, but Freeman was essentially asked to compare and contrast Nolan James and Aeneas Williams.
Other than height, they're different, right? Like Aeneas, as you saw in 2024 and in certain times in 2025, he's a guy that you see him motion out of the backfield. You can do some things in the pass game. Complete back, does a lot of really good things. And Nolan, quick. He's a quick jitterbug, but he's powerful, right? And maybe it's the stature that he has, but he's got great vision, great feel. He's tough. He comes from a wrestling family, you know, so I like that. And but he is a really good player, and we noticed that last year, right? When he got his reps in practice or even in the games, we said Nolan James is going to be a good player, and he's showing it right now.
Jitterbug. That wasn't the word I was expecting to hear. Go ahead, Vince.
I think it's funny because the first thing out of his mouth was stature, right?
Uh-huh.
If you look at Notre Dame's roster, they're both listed at 5'10", and Nolan James is listed at 212, and Aeneas Williams is listed at 210.
Really?
Yes. So
I wouldn't think that.
Like,
no, maybe it's because, like, to me, when I look at Nolan James, he runs more upright than other guys in that room. And so maybe that's why, to me, like, he looks a little bit longer than Aeneas. And Williams, obviously,
he looks a little thick, like
carries himself, a little bit like he's a little bit more rocked up looking, I think, than Nolan James. So that's amazing.
I know, right?
They're both listed at the same height and almost the identical weight because
2 pounds.
James just looks a little bit longer to me when I watch him.
I know, it's kind of wild. So and the fact that that's one of the first things that Marcus Freeman said was stature. I just thought that was interesting because I was like, wow, I wonder what the difference is. I was like, oh wait, there is none. So
there's basically none.
Or at least based on the roster. I mean, I assume it's accurate, but anyway. But what I will say, you said jitterbug. And watching Nolan James in that first practice, like the kid can move on a dime, left to right, east west, as they say. Like,
that's obviously, and I didn't get to see that.
Yeah,
I've seen very limited snaps of.
He can move, and it's fun to watch. Like there was a couple guys he left hugging air in that practice. And granted, it was just helmets, but they were they were getting a little physical, that kind of a thing, wrapping up, like that kind of deal. And he left some guys hugging air. So he's going to be fun to watch, I think. And if it ends up being Nolan James and Aeneas Williams as the 1-2, and there's some other guys that have a say in that, obviously moving forward. But if it ends up being those two guys, very different styles, and they're going to be fun to watch just because how different they are.
I agree, and I think that they can play off each other really well because of those differing styles. And like Aeneas is, again, just looking at him, he seems like a little bit more of a thumper, a pounder, guy. Even though he does obviously have some breakaway speed of his own.
And he can catch the ball out of the backfield, obviously. We've seen that in big moments and when he was a freshman and didn't get a lot of opportunities last year, but he's going to get a bunch of opportunities this year. And I'm sure it'll be interesting to see how they break up the reps, right? Because we all kind of figured that it was going to be kind of a 1-2 punch last year, rightfully so. And the year before that, Aeneas Williams was the third down back, and he kind of lost that role the next year because different running backs coach. And, based on the way he coached at Penn State, we kind of figured it would be two guys. Well, is it going to be two guys again, or is Kedron Young going to get an opportunity when he gets back? What is that going to look like? I'm very interested to see whether three guys are going to get a little bit more reps or if it's still going to be kind of a 1A, 1B kind of a deal.
Yeah.
They didn't do positional stuff. You know what I mean? There wasn't a third down back. There wasn't. It was like, this is your series and this is your series, like that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting this year to see how that works.
Broken out a lot differently under J1 Sider.
Yeah.
But like when you look at like his track record going back to Penn State, it felt like that was kind of who he was when he was at Penn State as well, the way he broke things up. So
yeah, and walking into Notre Dame's room, like it made sense that like just repeat what you did at Penn State. You got two stud backs, like why mess with the formula? Like I totally understood it last year, but now you've got a greatly talented room, but I don't know that you've got two guys that are head and shoulders above everybody else. I don't know that yet.
C3PO in the chat says, I think we kind of thought Kedron Young would get in on short yardage and goal line last year. Hard to say because obviously he
got injured,
got injured and that never happened. I don't know. And like, could that be a thing this year? It's hard to say.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like what we saw from Sider last year, that's not how he kind of divvied up. McCullough came in and he talked about those, I think it was like 8 assignments that he had,
right?
Like 8 roles, duties, and those kind of things. And that's not how Sider kind of approaches things, it doesn't seem like.
And rightfully so, I want to say, like, you didn't want to take Jeremiah Love off the field.
I agree. What did we say the year before when McCullough was here? You're taking your best player off the field on third down way too often.
Yeah. And J1 Sider said, yeah, I'm not going to do that, And so, and that was to the detriment of Aeneas Williams, obviously, last year. And one of the reasons I personally was surprised he stuck around, but he did. And now he's going to get an opportunity, which is great for him. And so, yeah, are they going to have specific roles like that? Or are they just going to roll with two guys? So something fun to watch.
Sine cosine tangent says, can I just submit questions like a regular mailbag on this
math
show? It's been so long. I know.
Math.
Confusing me with those.
You can always put your questions in, man. Always.
Throw them in because Mailbag is coming up next. That's the Marcus Freeman portion of the show. We've got plenty of Mailbag questions we're going to answer in the second hour of the show tonight, and we'll have some more Marcus Freeman comments on tomorrow's show as well. So he talked about a lot of other things. And we got a lot of them in this first hour, and we'll get a lot more in the first hour of tomorrow's show as well. But we'll take this break, and then when we come up in the 6 o'clock hour, it is Mailbag. We've already got some football questions, some basketball questions, all stockpiled and ready to go. Coming up, hour number 2 of Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is hour number 2 of the show. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with Vince D'Addario, Sean Stiers. This is typically rapid fire, but again, the show a little bit different format tonight because it is Wednesday, and Wednesday is always Notre Dame football mailbag day on the show. But because we had a Marcus Freeman press conference earlier today, we spent the first hour of the show listening to, reacting to, talking about, however you want to put it, Marcus Freeman questions today. Vince, I have a question for you. This is April 1st. Did you get caught up in any April Fool's Day type shenanigans today?
I did not. I understand there was a bunch of stuff on social media, but thank goodness I was too busy to even look because I'm sure I would have been gullible to something that was put out there. Actually, now that you mention it, I did get gullible on something. So somebody put out a thing that looked very much like what Notre Dame puts out about a 10-year contract with Notre Dame and Sacramento State. Home and home for 10 years. And I'm like,
did you retweet it?
No, I didn't. I know, but I was like, that doesn't seem like something they would do. And so I went to the Notre Dame, Twitter, and I didn't see it on there. And I was like,
10 years, man.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't think that's right. But they did a good job. It looked like one of the normal visuals that Notre Dame puts out, but it obviously wasn't. And now that you say it, I was like, duh, it was April Fool's Day. So like that completely went over my head.
I'm glad that Jesse texted this morning because I wasn't even thinking about what day it was. He said, there's a lot of stuff out there already. Be careful.
Yeah, so, he's like, don't fall for it.
Yeah.
It's a good call.
And I didn't think about it before 8 o'clock. So that was a good thing.
Yes.
So I was thinking about it as soon as he said that, but I was not thinking about it at all before that.
No, me neither. And I felt like people were playing jokes on me at work today, but I don't think they were. So it's one of those days.
Some other people fell from it. USMA 87 says he's only 90 miles from Sacramento. So he fell right into that one.
Yeah. Like I said, man, it looked, I'm going to have to find it for you and send it because it looked legit. So it's amazing what people can do with AI and all those things.
Mm-hmm. All right, mailbag time. Get your questions in the mailbag. We've got them on the Premium Champions Lounge. We've got them in the YouTube chat. We will answer some. Tommy Toughnuts asks, which side of Notre Dame's offensive line will pull more in 26? Left side or right side? I mean, isn't the answer strong side?
That the strong side was the right side in that movie on offense. It was left side on the defense.
That's right.
So it's like who's the most athletic? What's the most athletic side? So that would be the side that is pulling. Who's more athletic, Anthony Knapp or Sullivan Absher at this point?
And that's what it feels like to me. Like if we're gonna go, but because he also asked what's individual offensive lineman pulls the most. I mean, it just feels like if they're gonna pull that. I mean, I don't think you want to pull from the same side all the time, but at the same time, Knapp feels like the swiftest footed guy out there.
Yeah. I like that answer.
That seems like if you were going to slide a wager in, like he seems like the guy that you would slap it down on.
It's like a team answer. I like that. We'll work as a team on this one.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay. Salty Virginia Peanuts, as always, slides in a lot of recruiting questions. We'll see if, and I don't know if you have any feel for him, but he also says, Sean Stiers, Mr. Blue Ribbon, what do you do to ensure that you are recognized at Marcus Freeman's press conferences as you were today? Flash some skin.
Whoa.
It's a very complicated system, actually.
Yeah, raise your hand.
And it goes like this. Raise your hand, twiddle the fingers.
Yeah.
A little bit. That's pretty much what it takes. You just have to make sure that you're in eye shot.
Yeah.
When Sarah's looking up at the crowd. And that's why I've sat in different seats the last couple years. And actually I was fairly consistently in one. And then this guy who doesn't consistently come to press conferences would like beat me there by a couple minutes. And so he started sitting in my spot and it ticked me off at first.
Yeah, man.
And I also found that sitting in the certain spot, one, like sit up the middle so that Freeman can see you when you're asking the question easier. But two, I've also, the spot that I started sitting in, have a better angle to where she stands when she looks for everybody. So it's like a quick get the hand up. The quicker you get it up, that's the key.
Oh yeah.
Quicker you get it up, better chance you have. So yeah. Very complicated though.
You just got to make sure you're seen. That's all. That's good.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Sean Kelly asks, say Marcus Freeman leaves for the NFL and he fails within 2 to 3 years and comes back to college. Do you think he gets a high profile job? What do you think about that?
Yes. And I look, I'm not saying that Marcus Freeman is Nick Saban. I'm not saying that. I also don't know that he's going to leave Notre Dame without a national championship. If he wins a national championship at Notre Dame, then jumps to the NFL, and let's say he's just not good at it, right? Colleges will be climbing all over themselves to hire him as their head coach, right? Because Nick Saban was an absolute dumpster fire in the NFL. It was awful. I mean, come on, people have to remember. I know people don't want to remember what happened when he went to Miami, but it was awful.
No, but like Steve Spurrier was also
right.
awful when he went to the NFL.
Great call.
There's a long list of college coaches who haven't panned out.
Correct.
It's still a very short list of college guys who've made the jump to the NFL who have succeeded.
Hey, people will be crawling all over themselves to get Marcus Freeman as a head coach because he's already had the success in college and he's shown that he can do it. And if he can do it at Notre Dame, he can do it anywhere. So, he'll get a high profile job.
Like I'm thinking like Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson are the two of the most successful guys because they won both Super Bowls and national championships. After that, I'm sure there are some other guys, but I'm trying to think, when was who's the last college guy who made the leap who succeeded? Like, do you have to go back to Pete Carroll?
I was going to say Pete Carroll, I think might be the guy.
I guess Harbaugh, but like he went back and he did go to a Super Bowl with the 49ers after leaving Stanford. So that counts. And obviously he won a national championship in college. It's yet to be seen. I thought he'd have a bit more success
in LA
Chargers than what he's had so far. But I think, maybe, again, he did get the 49ers to the Super Bowl, and that was at a time where they were really down before he got them back up real soon. So I think you count him. I said Jimmy Johnson. Decaf is saying Jimmy Johnson. And obviously that's been 30 plus years. So and Pete Carroll happened more recently.
Pete Carroll's more recent. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of anybody else more recently. I really can't think of anyone because it's usually guys who are in a net, like I think, a lot of people thought Sarkisian might be a guy because he has kind of gone back and forth. He was an assistant in the NFL. And then, obviously now college head coach at Texas. Bill O'Brien has done a little bit of both, but,
I don't know that you would call him uber successful.
No, definitely not uber successful. He's had some success at both levels.
And Boston College isn't exactly a high profile job.
Right. But at Penn State before that, and that
kind
of got him, that push to the Texans.
That's true. And he took over Penn State when it was in a tough spot too.
Yeah, I mean, here's the biggest flop. I mean, forgot about Urban Meyer. Good call there, Decaf.
Yeah, that was a flop for sure. No doubt about that. We're trying to figure out who's successful at both. The list is short.
I think Carroll and Harbaugh are the two most recent successful guys. Yep. And even sine cosine is saying Saban. Are you saying
not successful?
Or he was not successful when he went to the Dolphins when he left LSU, and that's why he came back to Alabama. Obviously very successful in college, but didn't have the NFL success.
Nope.
So I mean, and you're talking Urban Meyer and Nick Saban. You're literally talking about two of the more successful college coaches of the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
And neither one of them had a speck of success when it came to the NFL.
Absolutely correct.
It's tough, but I agree with what you're saying. If that happened, capital I, capital F, if Freeman were to leave, didn't have success, in the NFL, yeah, I still think that he would be pretty sought after. Excuse me, coming back to college, especially, considering everything that he's done at Notre Dame in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I made the analogy before, and I really, really hope it doesn't follow this road. But again, Nick Saban wins a national championship at LSU, jumps to the NFL, is a miserable failure. Obviously, he's not going to go back to LSU. He goes to Alabama and becomes the all-time basically winningest coach ever, the GOAT of college coaches at a different school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I pray that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? He wins one at Notre Dame. He goes to the NFL, not super successful, comes back to another high-profile job, stays there the rest of his career, and wins like 4 titles. Like, that would be the ultimate, like, backstabbing. Not backstabbing, because he wouldn't be doing it to me on purpose. But, like that would just be like, oh my gosh, are you like, I would hate to see that happen. That'd be awful.
C3PO says Tom Coughlin. That's a good answer. Again, not as recent as either Harbaugh or Pete Carroll, but he did win multiple Super Bowls. So you definitely have to put him on the list of guys to make a successful leap. Wasn't necessarily, I was
going to say, what was his success level in college?
He coached at Boston College. He was a
right.
good coach, but there were not indicators that he would go on and be a Super Bowl winning coach in the NFL.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely took some time. And you talk about old school coaches as well, just in terms of the way he does things. Hold it. What? Father David's in the house.
I haven't seen Father David in months.
I know.
Crawling out from under that Canadian rock. I appreciate
MIA.
you, Father David. Congratulations on coming back.
Yeah. Man, we're going to.
I was getting worried. I was about to send out a search party for Father David. He was an everyday poster and just disappeared.
We'll have to pull out some Molsons. Tip them high. Decaf says he didn't hear Mr. Loud typing guy at the press conference today. Did they outlaw the use of laptops?
Definitely
They didn't. The only time it's really been obvious, though, was that Bavacqua press conference that we had, and that was in a completely different room. That was in the old, like the basketball press conference room inside Purcell.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't in the football.
So, and that's a much tighter space.
Yeah. So I don't know if like the, just like the acoustics of the room kind of,
do you put your recording device up on the podium, or do you hold
nobody really does that anymore?
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Everyone just kind of has their recorder sitting next to them on the seat.
Interesting. Okay. Because it's really good audio. Obviously recording devices have gotten better obviously over the years, but
true.
Okay. That's interesting.
True. Salty wants to know if I have considered having producer Ty run the show and me broadcast from home. Salty Virginia Peanuts really loves him some producer Ty. I will tell you that.
There are some people that are obsessed with producer Ty.
I tell you what, I would love to have a full-time producer of this show, but
yeah.
Vince just did the international rubbing his fingers. It costs money to do that. And that's why producer Ty does not, he's only here when I'm gone. And we need someone sitting in this seat, when Jesse and Vince are doing the show remotely, or if I'm in a hotel room someplace as well and I'm doing it remotely. Because we would have to pay the radio station would have to pay someone, and that's just not going to happen. So
I have
lovely as that would be.
I have spoken to our esteemed station manager about an intern who's very interested in working with us. And so that could be a thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But he said he has to get approval from his bosses.
Okay.
So I don't know how that's going, but there's somebody that is very, very interested in being an intern with us.
That could be fun.
I know. And he's
like
good
as well.
He's really good.
I found this on the web.
Oh, did you now? Okay.
Did you find this intern on the web? Is that what Siri is telling you? Or? Sine cosine tangent says, do you think a reason for the poor start last year was lack of returning captains?
I do not. rare is it that you have returning captains anymore, because a lot of times captains are seniors or juniors that are going to declare for the draft. You're not going to have a bunch of returning guys this year, I don't believe, off the top of my head. So, no, I don't think that's a thing.
I think it was just about the level of competition they were
Yeah.
playing early on.
And a lot of the new faces that had to play. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
Again, going on the road, breaking in a new starting quarterback
Mhm.
in game number 1 against a top 10 team. Not ideal. Playing another really quality opponent at home, a little bit more ideal, but bigger picture, that was a lot more. That game specifically, some against Miami, but that game specifically was more about defensive issues as much as anything. I don't think captains had anything really as much to do with it. So, they'll have some captains returning this year. Like you've got Drake Bowen back, for example, and like you've got a lot of returning experience. So yeah,
But I mean, the majority of the captains are not coming back, because you got Bowen and you got Schuler coming back. You're losing Heinisch, Pauling, Schrouth, and Wagner. So there was 6 captains, 2 are returning, right? So
yes,
I don't know.
All right, we've got some basketball questions in here.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
Baseball questions in here. We've got some recruiting questions in here. And Renee, by the way, says he's got a gift for me if he meets me, and he made it. Man,
whoa.
You've got me intrigued now. I believe Renee is coming in for the blue gold game. So,
I mean, is this like a Father's Day made you a gift? Like you're supposed to be excited about it, even though it's not really all that impressive? Or is this like you have talent that you have made something? Like that's my question.
Sign, cosine, amended to say lack of player leadership. I still don't think it's about the leadership. I think it was much more about experience level and the combination of the new defensive coordinator and trying to get things figured out defensively. I think it was
the defensive issue. The defense was an issue. I mean, look, the offense scored 40+ points against Texas A&M. Like that should be enough to win the game.
Yeah,
and the defense hadn't found their stride. We'll just say it like that. Week 2, so that was a problem.
Yes, excellent point. Let's take our final break of this show, and then we'll be back to finish up the mailbag. We got a lot of good mailbag questions still to come with Vince D'Addario, Sean Steyers, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We're getting ready to wrap up Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We still have a few minutes, like several minutes, actually, but coming out of our last break of the show, South Bend Cubs baseball starts this Friday. I'm sure they wish they started a couple of days ago when it was beautiful. But we're kind of like, we're April now, so we're riding this wave. It was beautiful a couple of days ago. It was decent still yesterday. It's garbage today, but it's supposed to be warm once again tomorrow, I see. So.
Well, I mean, I think warm is relative. I mean, it's supposed to high of 44 today, high of 71 tomorrow. This is the roller coaster that we're on, basically.
There you go.
You know?
And do you miss the days when you were coaching baseball at this time of year when you had to be a weatherman and, keeping your eye on, it's not just coaching baseball. It's like, what's the weather going to do? Am I going to have a game? Are we going to practice in the gym? Are we going to practice? What's this going to look like?
Well, and then you make a call as to whether you're going to be outside or inside or have a game or not have a game. And then the forecast, it changes instantly and it's like blue skies and sunny. And you're like, are you serious? We could have played. What is, yeah. It's, I was just talking to the assistant athletic director at Penn, because they had to move some games around and things. And then she's like, yep, I had this radar and I had this radar. And you become a professional weatherman. That's what you do in the spring.
Good times.
It's Northern Indiana in the spring, man. Prime example, 30-degree difference in the high from today to tomorrow.
Exactly.
30 degrees. It's crazy.
All right, let's get into some more mailbag questions. Some of these came from the Irish Breakdown Champions Lounge board. Purple and Gold has a slew of basketball questions, a mix of questions. UConn. Where does UConn's win over Duke in the Elite Eight rank for you in the all-time March Madness finishes?
Well, I mean, I don't have a chronicle in front of me of all of them, but I would say top 10. You know what I mean? I mean, off the top of my dome, we talked about Duke, Kentucky the other day.
Yeah, I think that's got to be there.
You got the Valpo win.
Bryce Drew. That's one of the first ones that comes to mind. Bryce Drew. Yep. 1998. It actually seems like it was longer than that. But they inbounded that ball with 2.5 seconds left.
They got it all the way up court, had two passes. That was a well-designed play, and he canned the three. I mean,
I'm going to tell you one that doesn't get talked about enough. But of course, to me, it means a lot. 2008 in the national championship game, Kansas.
That's the Kansas one. Yeah, I knew it.
Memphis.
Yep.
Mario Chalmers hits the three-pointer as regulation expires to send the game into overtime. And that was the game where Rose was at the free throw line. He missed the free throw for Memphis. So a three allowed, he hit the second free throw, the three by Mario Chalmers gets it to overtime, and Kansas was kind of in foul mode the last 3 or so minutes of regulation and got it there. But that was a big one. Tyus Edney, do you remember that one when UCLA Tyus Edney dribbled the ball, drove it the length of the floor, and got the layup at the end of the game? They inbounded with under 5 seconds left, and UCLA ended up winning by 1 point. They went on to win the national championship. That was another big one.
I know there was a big shot by a UConn player to win the national title a few years ago. I believe there was a big shot against Michigan State. That Michigan State had to win the title. I say not that long ago. Doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but I believe the shorts were long, and so that means it was probably 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Chris Jenkins for Villanova in the national championship against North Carolina.
Yeah, so there's a lot when you sit down and start thinking about it. But look, that shot the other day was big. I would put it top 10 right now.
Father David, we don't recognize this around here. He says Hakeem Warwick's block to lock up the win for Syracuse over KU. That wasn't a shot for one thing, but I guess you can say big finish anyway. But yeah, I think that shot the other day is going to rank right up there, especially when you look at it. It was an Elite Eight game. UConn was down by 19 points at one point. And, the way they stole it and the way it finished,
I turned it off
by Braylon Mullins.
I turned the game off, Sean.
Did you?
In the first half, I was like, because I really wanted Duke to lose badly, because for obvious reasons it would have helped my bracket, that kind of stuff. And they were just dominating. And I was like, this game is over. Why do I want to put myself to the misery of watching the rest of this game? So I was like, I'll find something else to do. Yeah. And then I come to find out, amazing finish. That's what I get.
Okay, so the follow-up question, what does the win say about Dan Hurley as a coach? Alternatively, what does it say about Jon Scheyer?
Well, Dan Hurley's on a heater as far as, winning and all of those things. Like he's a really good coach, and he's continuing to keep UConn in the elite. They're a blue blood program. You can't argue it. They've won too many national championships to even have that discussion, and he's keeping them there. That's what it says about Dan Hurley.
They've had 3 different coaches win national championships in this century, including Hurley. So, because the next question was, given UConn's continued success over the past 20 to 25 years, is it fair to say they're a blue blood in the company of Kentucky?
Oh,
Duke?
yeah.
I think you have to.
Absolutely. And
and they have, they have absolutely, Indiana is, they're not sniffing that right now.
No.
UCLA is not sniffing that
right
now. And 25, 30 years ago, those were both programs that I think everyone definitely considered blue blood status, but neither Indiana nor UCLA is on that echelon now.
They're not even close. I mean, UConn has trumped them very much so.
Yeah.
Over the past 20 years at this point. And and what does it say about Scheyer? Look, I don't think he's been on the job long enough for us to make, definitive, statements about Scheyer. That's where I'm at. Look, Duke was the number 1 seed, obviously, in this tournament. He's doing a pretty darn good job. And one bad decision by a Duke player at the very end of the game prevented him from going to the Final Four. How was that his fault?
Yeah, and the differences, there are a couple of different differences. One, Jon Scheyer has still been to 2 Elite Eights and a Final Four, and he's only in his 4th year as a head coach, and he's still Marcus Freeman's age.
There you go.
A little bit 1 or 2 years younger than Marcus Freeman even. Obviously, there's a huge shadow, just to be at that level is something for a guy like him, because it's essentially, like the Niele Ivey and Muffet McGraw thing when you're talking about Scheyer and Coach K at Duke, that's where they are. And so, the goal at Duke is obviously win national championships, but Dan Hurley is in his 50s, and he's in his 15th or 16th year as a head coach now at his second program. He's already won national championships. But you look at the difference in how they're running their programs, Scheyer, just like Coach K, by the way, is still shopping in the, we're much more relying on uber talented young freshmen and sophomores to lead this program. Whereas Hurley, he's got, some of those guys, there was more talent probably 3 years ago when they won the second of their national championships. They still got talent, not quite at the same level, but he's still got more program guys around where, he's got more sophomores and juniors and even seniors. And it's not that Duke doesn't have any seniors, but I think it's their top 7 scores are either freshmen or sophomores, all 7, are either freshmen or sophomores. And obviously they're going to have another lottery pick type guy with Boozer this year. But with Hurley, it's much more program oriented. Whereas with Duke, it's, again, much more blue chip, high end freshman guys. And as a result, Boozer, for example, when you look at that last play, I listened to Jay Billis talk about this a couple of days ago on ESPN. That's something that Duke practices, end of game situations like that. And it just wasn't executed properly. But part of that is because as talented as, it was the second Boozer, not the first Boozer.
The younger twin.
Yeah, exactly. But it just Caden Boozer. I couldn't think of his name. Cameron Boozer is the one that's going to be, drafted higher. Caden Boozer is the other one. But so it's something they practice all the time. It just wasn't executed properly.
Right.
But you're talking about the fact that you've got so many freshmen on the roster. Like UConn practices probably something very similar, but they've got juniors and seniors. So those guys have repped that a whole lot more. And so because Duke is relying much more on these ultra talented freshmen, that's just something that hasn't, even though they rep it, they haven't been repping it for 2 and 3 years. They've repped it for part of 1 year, so that's really the difference in the programs, the experience of one coach and still the relative inexperience of the other. And you're relying on different kinds of players to get it done also.
Perfectly said. Agree with it all.
Okay. So let me see. Was there one more? Oh, so then Purple and Gold also says Notre Dame logo, the sport-specific leprechaun logo recently released. Your thoughts on all the sport-specific updated leprechaun logos? He says his thoughts, while not offensive, if something isn't broke, ... I don't think you're in favor of the sport-specific logos, are you?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm okay with it. It's interesting the 4 sports that they chose to highlight in the first year. I will say that. When you think about merchandising, the golf guy makes sense because who doesn't want to buy a golf shirt and all the golf paraphernalia, I suppose. So they did what? Football, basketball, hockey.
It's a good sport to market to, right?
Exactly.
Because there are so many guys who'll go out, guys and women, women as well, obviously.
100%.
Go out and buy it and play golf with your, leprechaun golf logo on.
Yeah. So they did football, they did basketball, obviously the 2 high, revenue sports, and they did golf and they did hockey. Interesting choices. I'm okay with it. It's fine. It's something fun that they can do, I suppose. They apparently have spent so much time on each one of these. I took the Notre Dame one and I took a thing and I made a Hillsdale one in 5 seconds on AI. You know what I mean? I don't know how creative it is per se, but okay, it's fun.
It's something that hadn't really been updated in a long time.
This is true.
And they're kind of putting a little bit more modern spin on it. And they the honest and maybe, kind of critical eyes saying, well, you're just trying to make money. Well, everyone's trying to make money today. Is there anything wrong with making money? I don't think so. But it's something different, it's something new for fans to put in the wardrobe, whether it's a shirt or a hat or whatever else it happens to be. I think people are always looking for something new and something different. And I kind of like it personally, so I've got no problem with it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's fun, to see what they're going to come up with next, and that kind of a thing. And again, I like the pullover, the green pullover you had with the basketball guy on it. Okay, yeah, cool. It looked good. You know what I mean? So, okay, let's roll. I said it on the show the other day. I think it was Jesse and I kind of want the golf leprechaun on a towel for my golf bag. I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Why not? And then the other question, with the recent talk of High Point's campus, excluding Notre Dame, what are some of the nicer college campuses that you've seen? Which stood out and why? Perhaps how do they stack up in comparison to Notre Dame's? Duke's, for example, a little bit smaller even than Notre Dame's, but a very traditional kind of the old buildings and stuff like that. You have some of the quad look, and that's kind of cool. Some of the other ones, I'm trying to think, there's none that really stood out, but talking about facilities specifically, we went to James Madison this year for a basketball game, and I was really impressed. Now, granted, it's a private school, but, so that means they've got to do a lot of fundraising. The development, wing over there is working overtime. I was really impressed with the James Madison basketball arena. It's nicer than a lot of Power 4 basketball arenas. Now, it's quite as big, but it's it was nice. In the football stadium, I walked outside the football stadium. It's fairly nice. It's pretty nice too for a school that size and for a private campus. Salty says James Madison private. I don't think so. I thought it was. Is it not? I
You got me. I was going off of you. I was like, yep, okay, cool. I don't know. As far as like, I just like those old traditional college campuses. I don't necessarily like the schools that are in the middle of a big city or, things like that. I just like the old school with a quad where you can go out and throw the football around, like that kind of stuff. Like that's the kind of college life and college campus that I enjoy. I will say that I am not super well traveled as far as seeing a bunch of different college campuses. So I can't really pinpoint one or the other.
Salty is from Virginia, not to cut you off, but I did.
Yeah,
it is a private or a public university. I did not realize that, receiving funding from the Commonwealth of Virginia. So there you go.
Okay.
Improper assumption, but it's still nice.
Doesn't take away from the niceness.
Yeah. Salty says it's a public research institution. All right.
There you go.
Domer Grizz, what does Gino Auriemma do that Notre Dame coaches don't that has led to so much sustained success for UConn women's basketball? It has to be more than just success breeds success. What makes him so annoyingly good? Well, I wouldn't say Notre Dame coaches don't. I mean, look, they played in the national championship game multiple times. And, there was that stretch from, what was it, around 2011 up until 2019 where, like Notre Dame and UConn were going back and forth. I do think it's easy to forget that, they won a national championship last year, but they had a 9-year stretch in between national championships. They won one in 2016, and then they won one last year. 9-year stretch in between titles. That is the longest stretch of Gino Auriemma's career that he went without a championship. Now, they were still getting to Final Fours and all that. It basically just comes down to recruiting. The long and the short of it is that, like, when you look at the rosters that Muffet McGraw had when they were going back and forth and, both of them regularly in the Final Four and both of them in national championship games, it just comes down to that. It's recruiting. And, that's how Muffet McGraw got the program to consistently year in, year out, a Final Four national championship type team. And that's how Auriemma has done it for as long as he has. Like, there were just so many years where he was just stockpiling talent there and other programs weren't touching it. Where Notre Dame was competing every year was when they were recruiting at the same level and getting those kind of players, the Enrique Agumbawales and Joe Lloyds and Jackie Youngs and Skylar Diggins and all those different kind of players. Like there was that stretch, really, like there was a reason that Gino Auriemma and Pat Summitt, when she was still alive, didn't like each other. One, they were playing each other every year, but two, they were competing for the same kind of recruits every year. And that led to, a lot of that back and forth. And that's part of, like when Gino really started jabbing Muffet McGraw more publicly, it's when she was competing with him to get some of the elite recruits. Like that's what it came down to. That's when he really, to borrow the salty, like that's when he started getting more salty. Like when Muffet was competing for the same kind of recruits. And, again, he's still been recruiting on a very high level, for, even in that stretch where he wasn't winning national championships. But with the transfer portal, like the difference between this year and last year's teams and those teams during that 9-year stretch is he has still recruited very well out of high school, but he is also, like, this year's team is just like, it is stocked because he's also hit the transfer portal and he just has an embarrassment of wealth in terms of the roster that he's got right now. But, like South Carolina, they turned into the national power that they are because they went out and they started recruiting and they were kind of able to take away some of those players from Auriemma. So he wasn't quite as elite and he wasn't winning national championships for a while, but it all just comes down to recruiting. That's the long and the short of it.
There you go.
I know I kind of went on a tangent.
I love it, man. Bring it on.
That's
You can go on a tangent on Shooter as much as you want. It's fine.
On Shooter. It's funny that you call him that.
I'm just saying.
Sloppy Joe says, yep, Gino wanted Caitlin Clark, didn't get her. He wanted Asia Wilson, didn't get her, kept him from winning more. Yeah, and I mean,
of course he wanted Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. Caitlin Clark wanted none of him. Like, think about the alternate history, though, if Caitlin Clark had come to Notre Dame.
I know.
Which she originally committed to instead of Iowa. Like what? Like how how different the last 5 years would have looked. Man. Speaking of Notre Dame women's, how did that happen? Do you see that?
Yeah, it's this little toggle up top here.
I think I must have clicked something accidentally.
See, it says show comments on stage at the very top there.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Okay. So
that'd be like if we were gaming, you got to have the comments on the,
Gotcha. Let me see. There was another one or two basketball questions that I was going to slip in here that we got, and now I can't find them.
No Shrewsbury to Butler questions in there. We passed that.
Oh, there it is from Tommy. Way too early prediction for the ladies next year. Elite 8 or bust. Final 4.
Man, that's
I
tough.
mean, yeah, it's tough because as talented as they are, you got a ton of freshmen coming in the door. Next
year. Yeah. The roster is going to look completely different. I mean, a lot of talent, yes, but not a lot of experience. And so, KK and Cass, like we believe KK said she's coming back, but Cass has not made an announcement.
Correct.
If she comes back, then you've got 3 players with a lot of experience coming back, and so that eases up a little bit on some of the young people that are going to be coming in on the roster with all the boatloads of talent that we've talked about. But is that talent going to, project onto the floor and be ready to go come tournament time? You just don't know the answer to that.
There's going to be probably some, early ups and downs once again as all of that comes together. But I think it's completely reasonable to expect that they will be competing for a top 4 seed next year, which means that they would be hosting first and second round NCAA tournament games instead of going on the road with, like expectations of minimally of a Sweet 16 with a chance maybe to get to the Final 4, because the portal is going to be a big piece of this as well. But, like they had the McDonald's All-American game last night, and Jenica Lewis, pretty good-looking shooter, their top overall recruit, the commit that they got relatively recently, back, I guess it was in February now, but she waited until like the late signing period to sign. She did one of those, I think we talked about it, did one of those, where like everybody in the school does their signing on the same day. So she was kind of waiting to do that, even though the rest of the recruiting class had signed in November. But pretty good looking shooter and a pretty good athlete as well. And then JC Abi, one of the multiple 6'2" players that they have coming in, had a pretty good looking game as well in the McDonald's All-American game last night. So a lot of promise coming.
I'm excited about it. I mean, and I'm sure, Niele is disappointed that they lost against UConn, but once she has a few days and maybe a few weeks and, starts, okay, we got to turn the roster over, do all the things and get into recruiting and get into the transfer portal and blah, blah, blah. She's gonna be pretty fired up.
I agree. We're going to have to wrap it up with that. We have come to the end of the road tonight as we wind things down. Good show, good questions tonight. We'll have more from Marcus Freeman on tomorrow's show as his press conference today. We have a ton more coming up tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. For Vince, I'm Sean. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.